Okay, hello everybody. Today we got some it's a bit of a downer, but normally is a downer now. So here's the big news. American company Blackstone Incorporated to acquire Japan's largest e-manga site in USD 1.7 billion deal. Okay, so people hear Blackstone and they automatically think of BlackRock, which is very, Blackstone, they're one of these here it is, the world's largest alternative asset manager. So Blackstone, one of these massive finance companies, and people, when they hear that, they think BlackRock, which is another massive finance company. From what I can tell is that they were related, but they split off decades ago. But they're basically the same company, except Blackstone doesn't really push the same kind of ESG, DEI stuff. But they are worse in other ways. There's been a lot of scandals. But anyway, let's just get in. But anyway, yeah, get into the news though, Blackstone will purchase a majority stake in Infocom from Taijin and launch a tender offer for the remaining shares. Deal values Infocom's equity to about $1.7 billion. And then the deal will give Blackstone access to Japan's booming digital manga market, estimated to be worth $3 billion. And it looks like this is all coming from Mecha Comic, which is just, I guess it's just a big digital manga platform in Japan. But anyway, this is definitely something to be concerned about. Like I said, it's not necessarily over for manga, but it's something you definitely got to keep an eye on, because as anime and manga becomes more popular internationally, you see more and more Western companies trying to get their mitts on anime and manga, more investment, buying things up, etc. And this is just another move into that, Western companies getting involved in this. And, the issue with that is, the West is very, I guess, culturally imperialistic. So if Westerners are funding this stuff, they're going to put in creative restrictions, and then they're going to push a lot of the bullshit that's ruined, Western media. Woke stuff, feminist, LGBTQ propaganda, all that stuff. Although in manga, it's kind of wacky because... But it's kind of wacky because a lot of that stuff was, already there. It just, not in the same way. But anyway, this is kind of a concern. We'll see where it goes. Like I said, Blackstone isn't really as woke as BlackRock. But look, even if Blackstone, say, and even then, Blackstone just isn't going to be as good of an owner, I'm sure. Western companies always... A company like this always is just going to try and squeeze as much profit out of something as possible, Make a good product, screw that, just, fucking milk it for all it's worth. But, I focus on more of the cultural side, is this going to lead to, anime and manga becoming woke? Is this going to have a huge effect? I think it says later that it's 10% of Mecha Comics revenue comes from, original content. I forget where it says that here. I can just do this. 10%. Here. Original content brings in about 10% of revenue of the platform. So, I mean, look, I'm not a manga. I don't run a manga site, right? But that seems kind of substantial. And now Blackstone is going to be choosing what original content gets put on the platform. Okay, that's a bit of a big concern. Yeah, but anyway, we'll see what happens. Because ultimately, look, even if Blackstone isn't gonna completely destroy the site or whatever, let's say they don't make it woke, let's say they don't completely ruin it, right? This still is a bad trend, because look, Blackstone, they're just gonna be the first. We're gonna get more and more Western companies buying up, Eastern media, okay? Because I mean, look, there's a lot you could do with this. Imagine if fucking Warner Bros bought Shonen Jump or something. Or if Disney bought Studio Ghibli. Those are extreme examples, but that's the kind of stuff that's coming. You're going to have more Western companies, buying up this stuff. And then ultimately it's going to have an effect on the final product, because it always has an effect, If different people are funding it and different people are making it, then it's going to change things. Although ultimately, Japan has a much higher, I guess, immunity, resistance to this kind of stuff. Because one of the reasons why... look, one thing to keep in mind is that these, companies, they really only care about money. So the reason why they sort of put woke stuff in these games is because they think it'll make them more money. They think it'll appeal to a wider audience. They think it'll stop, outrage against them, keep their products, politically correct in the good light, that kind of stuff. And also it'll bring an investment from, say, companies like BlackRock, got to keep that ESG score up. But the thing is that, wokeness, especially for media, kind of hurts a lot because, DEI just kind of leads to shitty products. And we can go into that because that's another thing to consider. Like, people don't even necessarily dislike wokeness. They just dislike bad products. And, that's a whole nother issue to get into. But Japan has a much lower tolerance to this kind of stuff. Because if you look at the business side, the Japanese business world is a lot more conservative. They think very long term. They're a lot more risk averse. So it's going to be a really hard sell for these Westerners to go up to these, old school Japanese businessmen and be like, okay, let's make some new shitty woke anime, okay? And then, let's alienate the core audience, okay? And appeal to this, other audience that's like a fraction of the population. That's going to be a hard sell. And if it ends up bombing, which it will, I really don't think a lot of these guys would give it another chance. They'd be like these old school Japanese businessmen, okay, they're going to be having to get some serious financial kickback to actually make it worth their while. So, and then there's also other stuff like cultural things. Like the Japanese were never like taught to hate themselves in the way that like, Westerners were, white people were. And, feminism exists all over the world, but in Japan, it's not really in the same league. So, look, Japan has a lower tolerance for this kind of stuff, but we'll see where it goes. Ultimately, it's stuff just to consider, stuff to keep in like the back of your mind. But yeah, so anyway, just be, ultimately, you just gotta be wary. You gotta be wary, you gotta fight back, you gotta push back against this stuff when you can. And look, you just gotta not buy, okay? If whatever garbage that this fucking, like, if Mecha Comic starts putting out fucking garbage, don't buy those manga, okay? Don't watch the shitty anime, okay? And then complain about it on Twitter, okay? Because somehow complaining about stuff on Twitter was what got these woke people to take over the, all of Western society. Although, of course, it's a little more nuanced than that, but... Look, the loud minority can be very powerful, okay? So if we became the loud minority, it would do us quite a bit of good. Although I guess, perhaps it's more like the loud majority, but anyway, that's about it for me, though. Thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to post in the comments about what you think of all this. You think it's over for anime and manga? You think it hasn't even begun? Okay, just tell me what you think, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.